Okay, good morning. I'm Chris Young, Chair of the HDC Sign Advisory Commission. Let's confirm access. Members respond with an aye when I call your name. Mark Catone.
Aye.
Paul Wolf.
Aye.
Kevin Kuster.
Aye.
And for staff, we have Esmeralda Martinez.
Present.
This open meeting of the HDC's SAC is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. That order, posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allow public bodies to convene remotely so long as public access to deliberations is reasonably provided. This meeting is convening via Zoom with video and audio recording available on the town's YouTube channel. We will feature public comment. Materials provided to the members for the meeting or provided during the meeting are, unless otherwise noted, available on the town's website. And during the meeting, I'll introduce agenda topics and speakers. Please remember to mute Zoom audio until your name's called, and direct comments and questions through the chair to avoid crosstalk and the taking of minutes easier. Votes will be conducted by roll call, and we will call this meeting to order at 9:04 on June 20th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
So
Have a
Second.
Thanks. Kevin, are you in favor?
Aye.
And Paul? Paul, are you in favor?
aye.
Okay, and Mark?
Yeah, aye.
Okay, great, thank you. We don't have any new minutes. Oh, yes, Esmeralda?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Ben is here for the record.
Okay,
You ready?
Ben Normand, are you present?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any new minutes to approve. That's correct, right, Esmeralda?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. Is anybody here from the public with general comments not related to a application? Okay, seeing none, do any commissioners have comments that they would like to make at this time?
None for me.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to new business, 34 Center Street. We have actually several signs for the Nantucket Film Festival. Is anybody on the line to represent them?
Yeah, hi, this is Jacqueline Wall. I'm here.
Okay, Jacqueline, why don't, we're gonna have to take each application sort of individually, but why don't you give us the overview and you can talk about all of them so we get the full scope, I think, before we start looking at each
Sure.
one.
So these are our temporary signs. It's the same signs that we've been using since 2015. They're the signs that go up at the Dreamland. We had them last year. We did move our offices, our admin offices. So that is the 34 Center Street. We're down in the basement underneath Graphius. So it's just putting up a sign lower so that people can see where we are. And then we would, the 34 Center Street realty sign is still there. We've taken it down, but because they're no longer in operation and we have that approval to do so. But that's that sign. And then we're back at 12 Oak Street, which is at the Douglas Elliman office. And we put up a sign there. They have additional signage that is not that they created, but that is not ours. And then it is, this sign is similar to ours. It's a fabric sign, typical, and we typically put it right above we put it right, they have like a transom that we put it into. And Douglas Elliman has their own signage that we work around. And then at the Dreamland, we put fabric signs in the marquee. And then we're back at the White Heron, which we did get this approval when we were there in 2017, I believe in 2016. And we put signage right here above the window. And then we had a sign right there, and it's similar size to the signage that we would put at Bennett Hall when we were there. So it's a little bit smaller than what's at the Dreamland, but in a horizontal fashion.
Okay, thanks. So these are all temporary banners essentially on
All
vinyl
temporary
or
banners. They're
Okay.
all on fabric, actually.
fabric. Okay, great. And black and white? We're seeing this in black and white?
No, it's navy and white.
Navy and white, okay. Excellent. And what's the duration that you're applying for them to be up?
It's just it's the 21st, so tomorrow through the 26th.
Okay. Great, I'll open this up to the board members. I think we can just discuss these perhaps. If any board member wants to discuss any location, let's just do it that way. I think we could perhaps look at this as a blanket discussion. Kevin?
Yes, I'm glad we're looking at them all together. I have no concerns with these at all. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Paul?
No concerns, move approval.
Okay, let me just let the other two members weigh in before we get a second on that. Mark?
Yeah, no concerns. I appreciate the applicant coming before us as they do each year. These look fine.
Okay, great. Ben?
No concerns.
All right, I'm not going to buck the trend. I have no concerns.
Second,
All right, so we have a motion from Paul, a second from Kevin, and this is Esmeralda, this will be entered as a repeated motion for each of these applications. I guess we'll do it that way. So, Ben, are you in favor?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Kevin?
aye.
And Paul?
Aye.
Okay. So in essence, we've just voted on all of the applications regarding the film festival. Is that okay with you, Esmeralda?
That works, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Thank you. Good luck with the
Thank
festival.
you.
All right. So we have 47 Main Street. That's next up. Is there anybody on the line to represent this?
Yes, they're here. Matt McHegren and John Hayes
Okay,
is here. I
How are ya?
also had uploaded the file, the signed file. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at it.
okay, Esmeralda, this is this is the old, you said you uploaded the old application?
This is the actual application, the new application, and then this file here is signed applications from 2009 throughout the years. You had requested to pull the file, HTC file, and scan everything.
Right, I thought there was maybe this was pre-master sign plans, but I know that there was a discussion of them all sharing the space and how that would be handled. Well, let's open this up to the applicant, understanding that our concern for the building is that there's already a lot of signage on the storefront and that it was being used as a multiple tenant space, so that it allowed some exceptions to what the sign guidelines allowed. Introduce us to what you're hoping to do here, and we'll review it sort of in the context of the existing conditions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So We've done some work on this building for this owner. And his representative asked us to assist with this sign application. So I guess he wants to just move it above the entrance. I guess I'm just here to see what your concerns are so I can report back. I'm sorry, there's a lot of background noise. I don't know if you guys can all hear that. Basically just get comments from the board, what your concerns are, and then I can actually report back to the owner.
Okay, and what is, Esmeralda, can we see the sign itself aside from this image with the location? That's the existing projecting sign, right?
I don't know if it's
So Matt, do we have an image of what that?
I don't think that sign is existing above. I think this is where they want to.
So this is the
propose the
projecting
new
sign
sign.
that they're proposing. Okay.
Yes,
And is the awning going away?
I don't believe it is.
Do you see that there, I mean, it looks like there would be a conflict between that sign and the awning, just physically sharing the same space.
If you go back to the photograph, that bracket type is just to show what the bracket type would look like. But if you want to scroll back to the photograph, we can look at that, the existing. I think that would be Esmeralda.
Esmeralda, yeah. You scroll up, yeah.
I think it should clear it.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. I'll open this up to the group. We'll go Paul, Mark, Ben, Kevin, and I will look up the combinations with the awning signs while we're having that discussion. So, Paul.
Okay, the question of how many signs for Siemens Sheps there can be, will be interesting to see what you look up in the book, but the awning sign and the projecting sign would be 2. Are there other signs in the windows? There's a lot of history here, and it was confusing looking it over what we're looking at. Are there any signs in the windows now?
You want this up there?
I'm sorry, whoever's.
The shade store?
Are there any signs in the windows of this store now? I see things pasted on the glass, it looks like.
I don't know if there's, sorry, they just muted me. That's not me, by the way, with the background noise. I don't know who it is, but so as far as those being signs, I think they're more like advertisements. I don't think they're necessarily signs. I think they have displays behind the window.
Well, I think that could be an issue, but in prior versions of this building, there were signs on the windows beside the door, right and left of the door. Apparently they're not there now. So it depends on what Kevin Chris comes up with in terms of more than one sign.
Chris, if I may.
I don't have any other questions at this point.
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, I did walk by last week. There are decals in each of the windows left and right to address Paul's question that with the name of the store, Siemens Sheps, they're applied lettering to the glazing in the fixed picture portion below the split button. So, I mean, technically it's 1, 2, 3, 4 signs being proposed here. One in each window, left and right. We have the one on the awning and then the new one proposed above the awning. So it seems like we're more than maxed out in terms of signage here, never mind a 4th. So I think this needs to be evaluated regardless of combinations. There are, I think we held this reviewing last week, which is why I did the walk by. There are some examples further down Main Street of brackets located on the 2nd floor for signage. It's not completely atypical that bracket is mounted to above that freeze line. But I think that aside, we need to review the number of signs and whether even the window signs were approved originally anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. And yeah, I think that I'm looking through that that old file. I do recall the window signs were approved because of the fact that they were splitting. It was a co-tenant situation. I think there was a State Jewelry, which was different than Siemens Scheps, and they were trying to
Well,
present that
Chris,
they had
just to
multiple
clarify,
tenants, which is where it's where-
they both say Siemens Scheps.
Oh,
It's not
then-
like it's
then that's-
identifying an independent business. Each says Siemens Scheps twice
Okay,
in the glazing.
thanks. And that's probably, if I recall, and I'm trying to look through that file right now, it's different than what was originally applied for. But regardless, looking at the sign book, the awning signs are allowed in combination with a wall sign or a menu box or a window sign, but not a projecting sign. You know, probably for the reason that we're talking about, just physically, whether they can share the same space physically. I think it's sort of, it does look repetitive having those two on top of each other. So Matt, that is one concern that the sign book would specifically raise here.
So if I could, so
Yeah,
so a wall sign would be acceptable if the awning lettering stayed.
well, I think the other concern being the quantity of signs.
Well,
you know,
I understood that pretty clearly. So
yeah,
the,
sorry.
if you're
So-
saying that the decals on either side of the glass at the entry, obviously you consider those signs. So that's 1, 2. There's the lettering on the awning, which would be 3, and this is according to what you just said. And then 4 would be the projected hanging sign. So if they did want the projected hanging sign, is there a scenario where they could have the projected hanging sign, remove the decals, and keep the awning? Or you're saying no?
Well, the guidelines would say no, just reading them from 4.1 of the sign book. Let me continue the conversation since we haven't heard from Ben or Kevin. Ben and then Kevin, let's just get your thoughts here.
Yeah, I walk by here all the time, but I did walk by intentionally to think about the sign. And I found that location to be incredibly coordinated with the rest of the blade signs along that strip. It just seems like out in the middle of nowhere up there. Regardless of amount of signs and size of sign and all that, I think this location is not acceptable for this stretch of Main Street.
All right, thanks, Ben. Kevin?
I pretty much agree with what's being said. I think regardless of on this particular location, having that sign at the second level is not appropriate. There, I did not see any on that entire block. There may be some further down, but I think it's inappropriate to have it up there, and it's also inappropriate to have it above an awning. If they did want a projecting sign, it could probably go on either side of the windows. But then again, it's just conflicting with the awning. So I think this probably either needs to be denied or sent back for some revisions. I'd be happy to hold for revisions.
I don't know if there's any more comments from the board members. Just had a question, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes, Matt, go ahead.
Okay, so basically there's no support for the sign being located where the owner would like it. Again, the decals on the glass, are you, I guess, are you suggesting that those should be removed?
Actually, reading through the applications from 2010, and this is when Siemens Scheps, Stephen Swift, and a company just known as Estate Jewelry were sharing the space. There was only one Siemens Scheps sign. Then there was an Estate Jewelry sign and a Stephen Swift sign. So what seems to have happened is that, and that was approved because there were multiple tenants, and apparently now they've just sort of grown to be Siemens Scheps completely, occupying all the sign locations. So that's just the history of, that's how window signs apparently were approved in the first place. So it seems like they've put up unapproved signs, which would be in excess of what the guidelines would allow, and applying for a fourth one would certainly.
I understand. I think you
Yeah.
made that really clear. I totally get it. Like I said, this is
Okay.
just, we're trying to help out a tenant.
Understood.
I get it. I think obviously they did have approval for those decaled signs, but then obviously the business changed and he became the single tenant. He probably thought he had the right to just, change. He had to remove the names of the other tenants and he probably just put up his name. But again, I don't think there was any malicious intent here. But I can report that one of my purposes of being here today is to report back to him and his team to say that this is what we have to do. So, I just want to be able to get clarity in terms of what I should come back with, so I'm not wasting your time or his. So a wall sign not projecting would be potentially approvable if he kept the awning. Obviously, removing the awning, probably I'm guessing he's not going to want to do because they're expensive. So what would you prefer I come back with, like a mounted wall sign and the removal of the decals? That way you only have the two signs. I guess one's an awning and one's a wall sign per the regs.
Well, I think then we can open this back up to the board. I think then the question is the wall sign location, whether it's appropriate on the second floor, and sort of directly above the identical sign that's on the awning. So I'll just since you're asking that question, we'll go around the board, and we'll do Mark, Ben, Kevin, Paul, just to get some response.
I think Ben and
Okay.
Kevin both said that they didn't feel that the second floor location for the projecting sign was appropriate.
Right. I just want to address that as a wall sign since you're asking that question specifically. So
Oh.
we can let you give good feedback. So Mark, Ben, Paul, and then Kevin.
Is the question whether that becomes a wall sign versus a projecting sign?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So whether or not
Yeah.
it's if it's a wall sign, I assume that if you did want a wall sign, that would probably be below the awning. That's just my interpretation. But I guess if that's an option
Oh.
for having a wall sign above the awning, that would be great
Okay,
too. But
I
if
was-
not, I could, basically I would just say, what you guys tell me what you want, and I'll bring it back to the owner.
Well, I will say this, it's just, the sign book would say that a wall sign and an awning sign are allowed in combination. So, and two signs are what is appropriate for a storefront. So I would thought you were talking about a wall sign and the location shown in this photograph, but I'll still go around the board, let everybody weigh in so that you're getting the opinion of the board.
Yeah.
So,
If I'm still, my gut would be to recommend probably that the lettering is removed from the glazing, the windows. I guess plenty of opportunities to identify the store within their display. You know what it is. And then I think they're coming before us with the projecting sign, so they have more visibility as viewed from up and down Main Street versus straight on as this photograph depicts. And I think probably to appease concerns of other members of the SAC, a projecting sign that is mounted below the freeze board, and whether that's to say the right of that 6-light door, on that brick pillar, or if it were to the right near the downspouts, there might be some real estate there that's available where this could, where the projecting sign could be mounted to and be more consistently placed. I don't love a wall sign above the awning, just on the second floor in general. I don't know that serves the tenant very well either. Thank you.
Ben,
Yeah, I don't like the idea of a wall sign above the awning. If there's some way to apply a wall sign or somehow hang a wall sign within the storefront proper, then that would look great. I'm not so, if I picked up what Mark was putting down there of a blade sign, kind of by those downspouts, that doesn't bother me that much. I know it goes against our guidelines, but yeah, I think above the awning is not their storefront anymore. Maybe they hold the second floor, but I feel like that's sort of their storefront to advertise in, and anything above is off limits as far as I'm concerned.
Thanks. Paul?
Yeah, do we know what the projecting sign to the left of the six-paneled, six-pane door going upstairs says, what it's for?
I believe
That's
that's
for the-
Nantucket Looms.
All right, so I would think on the other side of that doorway, closer to Stephen Shep's door would be an appropriate place for a projecting sign. I don't think a wall sign is gonna look good. It's a tight spot. And I don't think it ought to go above the awning. Well, my thoughts is a projecting sign would be the most important. On the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the store.
Thanks. Kevin?
Kind of designing on the fly here. I am not in favor of a sign going above the awning, either a wall or projecting. I think a sign similar in size to the Looms sign, however, on the other end, on the other side of the building, on the right-hand side, just inside of that downspout, I think would be okay with me. I think it needs to be that smaller size though, and not something overly large. I don't really see another way to get a wall sign on that building unless it was on that brick column, but that may be confused with that door that would be to the left of it. So I'd be okay, like I just said, I'd be okay with a smaller sign on that downspout area with the awning, and get rid of the signs on the glass. That way we have it down to 2 signs. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Matt, I through this logically, that would make sense from a visibility point of view for the applicant, getting the up and down the street view. Certainly better than having everything from the front on view. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I also
Kevin.
I'm not sure if I see a edge banding or frame on this sign. We should just check that as well, whatever they're going to do.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that myself.
Right.
I'll work
Yeah,
on
we
that. with
haven't
them.
actually. Good catch. Yeah, we're talking more in theory here than design.
That's so,
And regarding I'm thinking through perhaps. Matt, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna say thank you for that feedback. I think the more clarity and specifics I can, that way I can just report back, and when we come back to you, we have a proposal that is aligned with your expectations. So thank you.
Okay.
Motion to hold
Just
for
to put the
revisions.
board's mind at ease, I'm thinking.
Well, sorry, I just did have one other question if I could. I know your time's valuable, so thank you. Is it possible to
Yeah.
get some feedback on the sign itself? I agree with you that there's no edge banding specified, which we'll need to add. But in terms of colors, fonts, dimensionality, if there's any feedback I could get, that would be helpful as well.
I think at the point of having it match the loom's size would be important, so it doesn't overpower the awning. You know, is an important. It looks like this would be bigger than that, according to my sense of scale of that loom's sign, which you could easily check. Adding a border, I think, is important, which can be done a number of different ways. Let's go around and just see if anybody has any comments on the design. Anybody want to speak up with other comments?
I think the only question I had, yeah, certainly a frame, which we've already discussed. And is the logo, is that a pea green, or is it just the way it's?
I can find out. I mean, it looks a little. I mean, the names of colors is so subjective. So
Yeah, I didn't know if they were trying. That was a that was a gold leaf or what they were.
Shell logo, paint.
No colors listed here.
Yeah, we can get a color swatch.
Yeah, that might be useful. Thank you. I think it was my only question.
Ben, any questions?
No,
Okay.
I think there's the option to reflect that nice green on the building or offset it with the top of some other car to create a little bit more drama. I'm open to some options there.
Great. Kevin?
Yeah, I think that it could be, color wise. I tend to promote black and gold or simple colors on this part of Main Street. I think that I think Ben's idea or the notion of getting some darker green introduced in there, we have to remember that at the bottom panels of this sign was the former drugstore. And something that maybe just respected that history a little bit. This kind of feels like a new postage stamp that's stuck on, but that would be my comments about the design. Thanks.
Decoration, and it's gonna be right below a green awning. So think about that. Paul,
I really have nothing more. Thank you.
thanks. Well, Matt, hopefully we've given you enough feedback.
Yeah.
Kevin, you made a motion to hold for revisions.
Second that.
Second. All right, we'll give Mark the second. Ben, you're in favor?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
and Kevin.
Thank you all for your time. We'll see you, I guess the next deadline, I'll figure out when the next deadline is, but thanks for your time and the specifics on the feedback. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Have a
Matt.
good one.
Thanks, Matt.
See ya. Have a great day.
Take care.
You too. Okay. We have enforcement next up. Esmeralda, any updates?
No updates from me, Mr. Chairman. I know Billy had been working on them throughout the week. He hasn't mentioned anything out of the ordinary other than
Okay.
just typical sending out courtesy letters. I do have a little update from what we had spoken about, the right-of-way signs on
Thank you.
sidewalks. I guess this was spoken back in 2018, which when John Hedden was in my spot. And him and Amy had been going back and forth with this. I guess according to this, the signs in the right of way are not really the HCC plus jurisdiction. It should be enforced by the police officer. See Article 127. See 127 Article 2, 127-3. Summary, police officer, 10 minutes, $200 fine. So I guess it's written in one of these article books. So I don't know if you guys have any recollection talking to John Hedden about it back in 2018. It was a while ago.
I think I can maybe add a little bit to that. There was a time around then that there were a lot of diesel boards popping up along Old South Road. And at one point, I actually rode around with an officer and he talked to those various people.
Okay.
At the end of all that, a lot of those signs got removed, but there also was a considerable amount of pushback. People thought it was a little bit heavy-handed to have the police coming in dealing with the sign. So that kind of put the kibosh on that for a while. And that's what ultimately led to the courtesy notices as a way to, encourage people to follow the regulations rather than having a police officer visit them. So I personally think that the courtesy notice is a little more effective than having our police do signs. I think they have more important things to do. I would recommend that we go back to the courtesy notices and try to keep it enforced, because there's now easel boards popping up through town quite a bit. And I haven't sent in photos yet because I wasn't quite sure what the charge was going to be, but that's my understanding of the history. So if we want to go back and have the police force do it, fine with me. But again, I just think they have far more important things to do with traffic right up on my list. So that's all for me.
Thanks, Kevin. I also recall that we actually ended up at the select board at the request of the select board, as I recall, to discuss it. And Chief Pittman was there with us, and there was a discussion about how to handle it. So it seems like this is on a continuous loop of sort of passing the responsibility around. And as you say, there's a lot of things popping up in town that shouldn't be ignored. We could certainly go back to the police department and ask them to enforce it per the way that it's written, but I don't know if they've got the staffing or bandwidth to be taking that on right now. Mark, you have a comment?
Yeah, well, I think we can pretty much conclude they have zero interest, zero bandwidth to be able to start addressing signage based on everything else going on, lack of staffing, so on, so on. So, but my question is if it falls, if it's in a public way, does that really mean it falls out of HTC's jurisdiction, or does it just mean that we then have the ability to tap the police to regulate it if it's appropriate to do so? Because isn't that also an off-premise sign? And therefore it still falls within our jurisdiction. I don't think it's a passing of the buck. I think it's like we can actually get at it from two angles. The reality is the police probably aren't going to take action, but can't we still pursue it from an off-premise sign language that does exist in our guidebook?
That would seem logical. Just looking back at the sign book here to see, well, we could dig into that, but the fact that the select board has invited us before, recognizing the problem existed as it was getting out of control, and I think that we would get support. We just need we're in a position rather where we don't have the power to actually issue these violations. We just have to ask you, Esmeralda, to please, take the steps necessary so that it's addressed. Whether that's going through Ray or directing a letter through Libby's office to ask, Plus to take it on as a priority. I'm not sure what the best approach is, but obviously if we wait too much longer, it's just the summer's gonna come and go, and each time that people are able to get away with it and do it all summer, they're just gonna assume that it's acceptable.
But Chris, are you concluding that we couldn't issue a letter just based on the
I think we can, but
okay.
From what I understand, Esmeralda, am I right in hearing that your superiors are saying don't do it?
Correct. To pass it on to the police station, that's what we have been doing.
Okay.
Sending them to a police officer over there.
Chris, I have
Okay.
a question.
Yes, Paul.
I thought that Billy Sad was in charge of enforcement. We haven't seen him for a long time. Is that still the case, Esmeralda?
We're sharing the responsibilities.
Sherry,
Yes.
because he was talking about every Friday he was going to go out and
He goes out and does inspections for HDC, which was part of what I was supposed to be doing, but I'm overwhelmed with other stuff that he's taken up on for.
so
him to
he
do.
does house inspections on
Correct.
Fridays,
And some enforcement,
some enforcement.
but he's
Okay.
also going to become the ZA administrator. So
Okay,
he's doing a little bit of everything.
okay. And then the other
Well,
related
go ahead.
question is he was going to have a spreadsheet of what enforcement issues he was working on. And I'm wondering if we can see that
Oh yeah, I can ask him to send it to me. And
to
I'll
everybody.
share it.
Yeah.
Correct, and I'll share it with you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea as individuals, not necessarily as members writing this as the committee, because I think anything that we want to recommend or request should go through Ray. As if it's going to be a formal request of the SAC, it should go up to the HDC for action. But there's nothing to say that individuals can't write Libby's office perhaps and just to address the question, how is this going to be handled? And it might end up that the select board would, once again, be supporting us and directing action be taken. I'm kind of hoping that that would be the case, but maybe we just do a two-pronged approach. I would like to send this through Ray just to say that it's concerned, how is it going to be handled? And I don't see any harm in individuals also addressing it through the select board's office and town manager's office.
Chris?
Kevin, yeah.
I kind of feel like we should just continue doing our job. We should send in the violations as we see them wherever they exist. And it's up to Plus to figure out how they're going to enforce it. And if enforcement doesn't get done, I think then we take it to the next group of people to make a decision on that. But I don't see that it's our role to do the enforcement. It's our role to pass on the violations. That would be my recommendation. That it should be business as usual for us. And they need to get their house in order as to how they want to enforce. And if it's not important, they won't do it. And then the community will say something and it'll go in the circle around again. But that would be my recommendation. I don't think we should stop or change what we do, but we should enforce our guidelines as far as we can, and then let Plus take the ball from there, or Ray, but it's kind of out of our court. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think that's what I'm suggesting. And I believe that it's important that we bring the issue up because nobody else will. And we're the ones who volunteer our time to be here every other week and tell our friends and neighbors and, people that we live and work with that they can or can't do things based on the guidelines when other people might be ignoring the guidelines. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the people that follow the guidelines and make their applications approvable for sake of those guidelines. So it's important, I think, that we at least push the matter forward so that it's not being ignored, because clearly Plus staff has their hands full with things to do. The police department this is far from their to-do list, I'm sure. So if nobody else is going to pay attention, then I think we should at least push the issue up to the people that can affect a change.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Motion
Anybody
to
else want to
adjourn?
weigh in on that?
I've got one
Anybody
other
else wanna
quick
weigh in
thing
on
I
that?
want.
Apologies.
Oh,
Very good.
Go ahead, Ben.
I have one other quick thing. It should have been under commissioner comment, but if we're done with the board signs, I'll talk about it. But are we done with board signs? I just want to make sure.
You have the floor.
All right, I just wanted to let you guys know that two Tuesdays ago at the HDC, St. Paul's showed up to discuss their sign with the board. I happened to be there anyways, the board, and so I was able to get up and as after they kind of made their plea that they wanted their freestanding sign, I did get up on behalf of SAC and just said that the sign didn't meet our guidelines, that we were very concerned about precedent of approving it. But ultimately the board did approve it with some minor design modifications to it. So unfortunately, I think we lost that battle. It was not an easy approval. They were up there for probably half an hour talking about it. But anyway, just let you guys know the status of that they did obtain an approval. The board is very specific about it being an approvable freestanding sign in that size for a religious institution, and the precedent that a lot of the other religious institutions have signs of that nature. So they were pretty good about identifying the limit of the acceptability, but hopefully not too many other freestanding sign people were watching, i.e. the FDM, because it was was a break from our guidelines and our suggestion.
Yeah, I happened to watch that too, Ben. It was nice to see you fess up that you had busted them. But I also
Started
think
the whole
that's,
thing.
I think some of the changes they made to it, they took the finials off the top and they recommended a paint color similar to the stone work and some plantings around the bottom to kind of lower the height. So I think the changes will help. Yes, it's still freestanding, but I think they've improved it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it come back to us again once they get the revisions done. But you took it on the chin, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
Kevin, you had a motion?
Yes, motion to adjourn, please.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Paul,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Gentlemen,
Thanks.
All right.
See you.
Have a good week, guys.
you too. Bye, Esmeralda.